I think academics should listen more to coaches and to people on the field. Because if there's 100 definitions of creativity and we want to improve creativity, for example, in youth academies, it's important to understand what are the beliefs of people who are working in the academies about creativity, because maybe that's the most important bit if you want them to help players becoming more creative. Knowing what are the beliefs, the values, all those things of people is one of the most essential things for creativity. Knowing what they think creativity is and how what is its origin. If they think it's something God-given, like a gift that cannot be changed, if they think it's something that can be taught, if they think that it's something that can be developed, that's really fundamental. People's beliefs are fundamental for the development of creativity. Specialized in youth development, so I'm really interested in creativity in professional academies, not in terms of grassroots participation sport, but in terms of professional academy environments, because they're very particular environment. Spent more than a month in a Portuguese professional academy of one of the top Portuguese clubs, a club that competes regularly, let's say, in terms of the European competitions. And I spent a month there. Basically, they were really cool guys. They had been one of the academies that I had visited during the first study. So I had been there before, asking them, what is creativity? How do you develop that? And then they said, oh, we want to know more about it. So they invited me, or better, allowed me to spend more than a month there, just freely. So I was there every day, observing everything from training of like under 13s to whatever I wanted, sitting on the cafeteria, going to the matches. I went to an international tournament with them. And the debates on creativity tend to focus a lot on what happens on the pitch, on the individual level as well. How can we make a player more creative? What kind of drills, what kind of training exercises can we develop in order for a player to become more creative? Even though, as we have just discussed, the creativity and talent, let's say, are properties of the talent of the athlete's environment kind of interaction. One does not occur without the other, or one limits the other. So I was a bit surprised, let's say, to find that there was no research also understanding or trying to understand the impact of organizational culture on creative learning. And when I talk about creative learning, I talk about the process of developing creativity. I don't know, and I have no evidence if creativity is something that is born or not. From my research, my assumption is that there might be something, but I have no evidence that there is or not. So I'm open to believing that there might be something, but that it must be stimulated. It's a little bit like genetics and epigenetics. You are born with a certain propension for certain things, but if they're not stimulated, they might not necessarily become expressed. So that is why I think it's important also to focus on the process in terms of instead of only focusing on what the individual already might have or not. And this is really interesting, because on research on organizational creativity, which is usually based a lot on companies, on how can our company become more innovative? How can our company become, more disruptive? CEOs and leaders, they all talk about creativity is really important. We all want to be more creative. Creativity is at the core of our business. But do they really, walk the walk, let's say, or they just talk the talk? Do they really live up to to their words or in the kind of environment that they are leading, that they are creating, or not necessarily. So I wanted to ask to show you, this is called the dynamical componential model of creativity and innovation. It's an academic model, but actually this is quite useful to establish a link that I wanted to establish that actually kind of justifies this study. It's built on the assumption that the organization can impact the creativity of the individual. So the environment of an academy, let's say, can influence how able or not a player is to express his creative potential. And at the same time, the individual creativity of people who work in the academy, be it players, be it coaches, be it the leaders of the academies, the academy head of coaching, the academy directors, the CEO of the club, everyone can impact on the ability, let's say, of players, let's say in this case, to express their creativity. And this is my invitation for you, that you use the key ideas of tactical periodization, you know, and the philosophy that underpins it, to apply it in terms of the bigger picture. You might have heard already the expression of fractals. And this is something that I've applied. I use it as an underpinning philosophy to the way I think, to the way I do research. And so if everything is connected, like the players are in the team with the coach, the game idea, it's really important to think that the way an academy thinks about it's the way it is structured, the way its vision, the behaviors are really important for the way it can be expressed. This componential model also brings in something important, which is motivation, the role of motivation for creativity. Something called the mediators of creativity, things that are not, let's say, creativity in itself, but they are necessary for creativity or for creative potential to be expressed. And there's a distinction here being made between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when you are motivated by the process, the way you do something by your own initiative, you have a genuine pleasure, you do it for the pleasure of doing something. And extrinsic motivation is you're motivated because of the reward. It can be money, it can be prestige. You are a bit more focused on the outcome, you have your eyes on the prize and not really on the process. And this model is by an American researcher, Teresa Amabile. Also talk about skill in the domain. So that idea of the deliberate practice of domain, having the knowledge, knowing the rule in order to bend the rule. So this is also something that is going to be transversal. You're going to see it in every single model of creativity, which is really interesting. If you think that we're always talking about, oh, we are taking the creativity of kids away. They are born so creative and we are taking it away from them, you know. So it's quite interesting to think on that now that we can also think, oh, having the skills is quite important, or having the knowledge, the traditions, stuff like that is quite important. It also talks about resources. So having the money, or having the human resources, the coaches, having the physical resources, the infrastructure of the academy, stuff like that, it's also important. And not necessarily having, sometimes not having can also be important, or having too much can be a problem.